What's up, guys? Hope you guys are having an awesome night. Tonight, I've got a very special guest who's coming at us with a little bit of that folk country flavor of Liberty music. He's singing that Liberty stuff all over the place, and his music's really good. He's also like a genuinely good dude. We've talked a little bit backstage, and his story is really cool. So I'm really excited to have him on. Tonight I've got Mr. Ancap Tim. You don't care that I like genderfied you, right? Like Mr. Ancap Tim, you're good with that?
I am very offended. Before we went on, but yeah, no, it'll be fine.
All right, brother. Well, thanks for coming on, man. Mr. Ancap Tim, I did it again. How did you get started doing music, man? Like, I guess like first talk about, how you got into music and, like how long you've been playing, stuff like that.
Right. Got into music when I was a teenager at church. My uncle played a lot of different instruments and he would maybe play the piano at church and different things. And I was like, hey, teach me how to play the bass guitar. There's one sitting over there and nobody ever plays it, so started playing the bass, then moved on to started the keys. And then a little bit later on, I learned acoustic guitar when I started writing my own stuff, because it's like, you can't be a songwriter and a singer and not, play the acoustic guitar.
Yeah, for sure.
So I kind of cheat a little bit. I play tenor guitars. So again, learn on bass, 4 strings, tenor guitars, 4 strings. So, but yeah, church was where I kind of learned to play music and play in front of a crowd. And then I went on the road with a Christian band for about 3.5 years, right up till COVID. COVID kind of killed that, as did a lot of bands out there. And ever since then, I've been writing kind of anarchy music, voluntarist music, and kind of had them on my phone, just in notepads and different things. And then started to kind of take those and put melodies to them and chord structures and made some demos and sent those out. And people were like, you should do something with this. So that's where I'm at now. I've just released a debut album, and it's called The State's Just a Mafia, kind of right on the nose. But it could be the title could be a punk rock album title, but it definitely not punk rock. It has some rock in it, more folk rock. So some indie rock maybe type songs. Got like a 90s indie rock kind of feel to some songs, but definitely in that folk range, classic rock. Tad bit of country. I know I've got the accent.
Yeah, the twang, brother. Yeah, the twang. For a second, I feel like people are going to confuse you for the guy who sang, Richmond, north of Richmond. You know what I mean?
Yeah, maybe so. I do know the drummer in that band.
Oh, that's awesome. Yeah. Well, so you started off, playing in church. I actually, like, my first instrument was bass guitar as well. And I started off, like we talked offline a little bit, but, kind of doing like more Christian music, playing at church as well. I was a worship leader for a couple of years too, back in the day, believe it or not. But I think that's great, because to me, I think like naturally, you like learn to play in front of people and stuff like that. But I feel like, we talked about, using the stage as like a way to like get a message across. And that's what you do when you're playing, Christian music or church or worship music. It's what you do, when you're playing any kind of music, really. Like, you have a message that you're trying to convey to people. And, with, this liberty type music, like anarchy, Ancap type music, you have it was definitely a shift to go from, religion to politics. Right. But it's not like a dramatic shift, because you're still like just basically, songs are just a reflection of like what's going on inside. Right. So you're talking about your own convictions that are, your own political convictions basically, and you're opening up the door to those. Was that like a difficult shift for you, or did it just kind of come naturally? Like, when did you kind of like take the white pill into anarchism, if you will?
Yeah. And you're right, as far as the church being a good place to kind of cut your teeth, because it puts you in front of people, and generally a forgiving audience, or at least it should be.
Yeah.
So it's a good place to learn. It's a good place to know what works and what doesn't, as far as trying to get across the message and performing. Some people in the church don't like that word performing, but I'm like, well, it's what you do when you stand up in front of people and sing and play. But yeah. So, and as far as my journey to anarchy, being raised in a Christian family, I was in an Anabaptist family as well. You have to be Republican. It's somewhere in the Bible, isn't it? No.
Yeah.
But yeah. And so I kind of went from that to Ron Paul comes on the scene, like so many others, just woke so many people up. For me, it was the debate in the primaries in 2008 with Rudy Giuliani, when he said something about blowback and war, and all this stuff happens because we get what we give, basically the golden rule, and he got booed. And he just doubled down, and Rudy was like, "You need to apologize, blah, 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 blah." I was like, no, I'm not.
That was a harsh audience, man. Like, people were still like super like about the wars during that time.
Yeah.
So like, it was a very unpopular opinion to have, and he stood up and he just said it.
Those balls, man, they woke so many people up. Yeah. And that started me down this path to anarchy. A lot of people say, what's the difference between a libertarian and an anarchist? 2 to 3 years. And it really is true. And so, yeah, I was Mr. Ron Paul in 2012. After that, Mr. Gary Johnson. And then finally, it was just like, okay, I'm not playing politics anymore. You play stupid games, you win stupid prizes. All this effort, I don't know what it's for. I'd rather just change hearts and minds and try to convince people that good ideas don't require force, and that taxation
is one of your songs.
Yeah.
A couple of your songs.
Get that plugged in. But yeah, so that's what got me to the journey of anarchy. And I've found, like, so many people, Larkin Rose along the way, and different people that just kept bringing me a little bit further towards Ancapistan and free markets and anarchy. Realizing that anarchy is not a dirty word, that it takes a little bit to get over that.
Well, there's a stain on the word anarchy, man. There's a lot of like people who call themselves anarchists out there that really just want their kings in power. Then you got like a bunch of people who are like,
just want
anarcho-communists, which are like, like in a perfect anarchist society, we could all probably try to get along, but like really, like, it's not very compatible with, the ideas of laissez-faire capitalism at all, and free markets, which is the best way to go. Right. It's the only way to go. It's the only way that anarchy works.
It's hard to seize the means of production without guns. So you kind of got to have that state there to take property from the property owners. But
yeah, I mean, like, for me, like, I started off as an anarchist. Like, I've been an anarchist since I was 16. Like, and I morphed into libertarianism, and I kind of feel like they're almost, you have to be a libertarian to be an anarchist. So, like, the non-aggression principle is, while it's not like an absolute thing, like, it's definitely like the thing that anarchists believe. Like, don't hurt people, don't take their stuff. And there's going to be times in the world where, like, there's some nuance with the nap, and people, I'm on the LNC. So, I had to take a pledge to uphold the nap. So, it is what it is. But if, like, it came down to it, it was my family versus someone that wants to eliminate my family. It's possible that I might need to violate the nap at some point. Right. So, but overall, like, the ideals of libertarianism are beautiful, and it's a beautiful philosophy. And I I say the same thing about libertarians as I say about, my fellow Christians. The worst thing about libertarians libertarianism is the libertarians. The worst thing about Christianity is the Christians.
Yep.
We all people give it a bad name. And that's how it is. But what I will say is, I think that like at this point, I've put a lot of hours into the Libertarian Party too and stuff. And, I'm definitely leaning more towards like agorism, or even doing like, a campaign as a messaging campaign of sorts, rather than divulge all your time and money into this thing that's literally just doing nothing. It's like poke it with a stick. Like, what are you doing? You know what I mean?
And I'm not against the LP at all.
Right.
I'm not one of these so-called purists that you have to agree with me 100%. Just like Ron Paul, who is not even a member of the Libertarian Party, I don't think. He was a Republican his whole life. I mean, it's someone like him woke so many people up. Mm-hmm. So everybody plays a role in this liberty movement. And I'm not one to, say, well, you're not pure because you don't do it my way. Mm-hmm. I think there's many different avenues we can use for liberty, and music is one of those. And so, I'm never going to hold somebody down because they don't agree with me 100%.
So like when you first, started playing music and got into music growing up, who would you say are some of those artists and bands that helped like shape your sound with, your first band, your project that toured, and then also that shaped your sound more now that you're doing like more like freedom-based music?
Yeah, I would say it's probably a lot of the same bands. I'm a huge Billy Joel fan. I actually had to do a parody of one of his songs on the album.
I was gonna say earlier, like, it's all rock and roll to me.
Yeah,
you said I'm not punk rock, and I was like, you're kind of punk rock.
Yeah. Well, we're actually working on a parody of that song now. But nice. The one on the album is "We Didn't Start the Fire." I do a parody called "We Didn't Start the Scheming." It kind of goes through a lot of the conspiracy theories that have become true of this country since the founding of this country, that it is not all roses like some people like to paint. So Billy Joel, definitely, just because he was so versatile, he was able to, do a doo-wop album, and then like Glass Houses comes along. It's pretty rock and roll, and then he has more of the singer-songwriter stuff. And so I've always enjoyed that about him, and his ability to just communicate a message, even if it's just the everyday man message to people. I've always loved 3-part harmony. I've got a lot of 3-part harmony. It's me singing with myself, and I learned harmony in the church. So I'll do a tenor part and a baritone part. On a lot of songs that are on the album, on the choruses and different things. So like. There's a 90s band called Black Hawk. Probably nobody knows who that is.
I don't know who that is.
Yeah. Ricochet. There's a lot of those 90s country artists that had that 3-part harmony. So those two definitely. The Eagles, always been a fan of the Eagles. And just grew up as a teenager just playing Eagle songs, learning, a good 4-chord song. And so, those, and that really, the guy I was in the Christian band with that we toured, I would say a lot of the same influences. And so our music was kind of country, Southern rock kind of deal, but it was a Christian message. And nice. So going forward with the anarchist message, my own album, my own singer-songwriter stuff, I would say the same influences, even though probably a little less country than more folk and rock.
Yeah.
Rock. Yeah.
Did your political views always kind of like find their way into your music, or was there like a shift that happened where you switched from, Christian rock to, freedom music?
Yeah, definitely a shift. COVID. I mean, 2020, when it ended what we were doing as a band, and the Christian band Avery Road, that definitely shifted me, and it really changed me. The whole most of the year 2020, I was just a bitter person. I mean, I got kicked out of so many places because I didn't do the mask thing. you know, I would respect private property, you know, but I would make them ask me to leave, you know. And then the stupid thing with the restaurant, like you had to wear a mask to the table. I'm like, sorry, I am not doing that. I'm not playing this game where I wear a mask at the table. Then I'm free to take it off and spit my.
So it was pretty bad in Virginia then too, huh? With the venues and all that and everything.
Where I live, not so much. But when we would go on vacation, like we went to more like the Norfolk area, and it was such a horrible vacation. You know, so I was just not a very pleasant person to be around in those days, and so that really writing music was an outlet for me.
Yeah,
it was, you know, the world's gone to shit. I'll just sit here on my phone and I'll be creative, and it was an outlet for me to get away from the nonsense.
I mean, creators don't stop creating, man. Like sometimes I'll just stay up till like 3-4 o'clock in the morning because I just have something on my mind that I need to get across on the paper. You know what I mean? And that's just, I don't think like you stop playing music. That's gonna, that like part of your brain that creates still is like, it's grinding, it's still moving. Right. So like, you can't take that away from a creator, you know? So COVID did a very similar thing to me. I know we talked about it a little bit, but like basically my band was based out of Denver. I was living in California for work at the time, and I was traveling back and forth for shows and stuff. California shut down first, basically. But my practice space shut down, and we played our very last show right before all the venues shut down in Denver. It was great. It was a great show, sold out with Aaron Gillespie. I don't know if you know who the Almost is or Under Oath, but it was him, and that was great time. One of my favorite experiences. And we ended on that peak, luckily, but it also like sucked because like literally it was within a month of that everything was done. Like we couldn't play music at that point anymore. It made no sense for me to fly back and forth to Denver. We had no place to practice. We had no show opportunities. So that project pretty much died for me. But for me, it also like kind of lit a new fire. I started writing my own music, doing some DIY stuff. My stuff now is like more like, it's more, I call it revolutionary punk rock. I'm working on an album right now that I'll hopefully have out within the next 6 to 8 months. Nice. I'm so busy, got a newborn, all this stuff. You know, it's hard to actually find time to do it. But it's definitely more like political driven than anything that I've ever done. Like my first single is going to be Starting the Fire. And we said like, you know, talked about the Billy Joel song or whatever. This song is called Starting the Fire. And it's, you know, inspired by the Pine Tree Riot, which is a New Hampshire thing where, you know, it kind of prefaced the Boston Tea Party, where, you know, I don't know how familiar you are with the Pine Tree Riot, but basically, you know, the Royals overseas were demanding a tax on any trees that were cut down of a certain diameter, 8 inches or bigger. They had to pay a tax on the tree to cut it down at the lumber mill. And the lumber mill in Ware, New Hampshire, they were like, no, F you. So the sheriff went over and was like, hey, like you owe these taxes, you know, like with people that were representing the whatever it was and overseas. And they're like, absolutely not. So they burned down all the wood. They burned down the factory. They threw the sheriff in jail overnight. And this event like kind of sparked the revolution, which led to the Boston Tea Party, which led to the Revolutionary War and standing up for ourselves. So like, that's the idea is like, you know, we need in our liberty movement, we need someone who's going to start the fire. You know, I'm not saying like literally go start a fire, but like we need, like for me, it's music. I'm going to try to start the fire in somebody else so that they're pumped up, you know, and they, you know, they want to be a part of this like revolution of people who demand freedom. You know, we can't ask anymore because they're not going to give it to us. We need to like,
and music's powerful. I mean, you're right. Not to harp on Billy Joel, but I mean, the Berlin Wall. I give Billy Joel and rock music more credit to bringing down the Berlin Wall than any political pressure from the West or Ronald Reagan or anything like that. They wanted rock and roll. And so yeah, I think music is very powerful.
Yeah. So like, walk me through like your songwriting process. Like, do you usually start with your lyrics and you write the lyrics, like these super based, awesome freedom lyrics, and then you write the music to go with it? Or do you like have something that you kind of work over top of?
Most of the time I have the lyrics and then I'm trying to figure out a melody and a chord progression. Sometimes there's a few songs that I had a chord progression to. I mean, one is a very obvious one. The Cryptocurrency Blues. It's just a blues song, so it's like, well, I've got a progression for that already. I mean, every blues song in the world.
Yeah.
So that one I was working off of an already pretty established chord progression. Yeah, it kind of a mix, but I would say mainly I focus on lyrics, and then I'm like, I can probably put these to any kind of beat and different things. One of them I ended up changing. It's called the Ballad of Lysander Spooner. It's a 6/8 song. It's
Nice.
it's kind of it just has, it's a very folky piano driven song. I love Lysander Spooner, and I was like, if anybody in the Liberty circles, in the, like, as far as a hero of the past should have a ballad, it should be Lysander
Yeah.
Spooner. So
Yeah, absolutely.
but I had the lyrics originally, and it was kind of 4/4. And as you know, when you change time signatures, you kind of, sometimes you have to adjust lyrics. So that one, when I turned it into a 6/8 song, I had to go back in and kind of adjust some of the lyrics. So yeah, a little bit of both, but more so a lyric person, then I'll figure out the music around it.
Yeah, like, so do you usually like set out so I guess like I kind of like want to ask a couple questions here. So do you at this point set out to explicitly write a political song, or do they just kind of like flow naturally?
No, I believe it's purposeful. I
Yeah.
don't believe it's just I'm sitting down to come up with something creative and it just happened to be political. No, it's pretty purposeful that I sit down to write a political song. Some of them were just like rants on Facebook that I was saying the same thing over and over to different
Yeah.
people. I was just like, I'm just gonna put this in a song. Good ideas don't
Nice.
require force. That's one of them. Yeah. So
Great
yeah.
song, by the way. That was a great song.
Thanks.
So like one thing that, and I never try to like change people's creative process or how they are as an artist or anything like that. One thing I do like always like talk to people who create, freedom music, like, with an intent to like drive the ideas of liberty to people is, I say this to libertarians about everything, actually, not just music, but I do think that like we are the type of people who, once we take the white pill, it's really hard for us to appeal to normies. You know what I mean? So I often am like, you know what? Just keep writing songs. Like, just write songs, mix some of your liberty songs in with it. And, but like they, like my friends, Jack Lloyd, I'm sure. Right.
Yep.
He puts out like all these like absolute like banger, rap tracks with Foe.
Yeah.
And, every single one of his songs is about, hating the government too. So it's like, like if it ain't broke, don't fix it. But at the same time, I do think that like I think more, it's easier to get the message across when people are able to like listen to all your stuff and they're just like, it's more than just that liberty stuff. You know what I mean? So I don't know. That's kind of like where I'm at. Like my newer stuff, like it's definitely politically driven, very anarchist based, but I also have a couple songs in there that are just, about living my life.
Yeah.
Because that's what songs are. They're just a reflection of my life, essentially. Sure. So,
yeah. And that's not a bad strategy to have possibly going forward, maybe for the sophomore album. But this album was just more, hey, I've got these ideas in my head, these things I want to say, and I might be the only one that likes it, but I'm going to make this album for me. I figure I know we don't have a huge community, but I was like, there's a lot of people in our liberty movement that are like me, and so
Yeah.
maybe they'll enjoy them too. That's really what the thought was
Yeah.
behind.
Are you familiar with Jordan Page by chance?
Yeah,
Yeah, it's come. You should come up to Pork Fest and play your music. Actually,
yeah.
I know a guy that can hook that up, man. So if you want to play music at Pork Fest next year, just let me know. I'll get you up there.
Ain't too bad of a hike.
No, it's not terribly far. I mean, I go back to PA to visit family quite often. It's about 8 hours. It's probably about 10 to 12 for you, I would assume.
That's what I was gonna say, about 10, maybe.
Yeah,
maybe 12.
So once we have a new venue, I'll have to be in touch with you, because definitely, I think that like your style of music, your message would be a huge hit up at Pork Fest. People would love it. So,
yeah, and that's one thing. I don't know if you meant what you just said as far as style, but that I'm a little bit more middle of the road. I'm not gonna melt people's faces off with any of my stuff by any means. But I don't think that type of music probably it's very appealing to have punk and heavy metal in the anarchist liberty movement.
Sure, yeah.
But that's not going to be everybody's thing.
100%.
That was what I was thinking with this process.
Most of the music at Pork Fest,
I can't sing the stuff, and I can't rap. So
there are musicians and artists that perform at Pork Fest pretty regularly that are pretty much all folky country. Like some of them are like more like, I think this last year we had like I think they were like a Fleetwood Mac cover band or something like that. But like, a lot of it though is more like definitely folky country, singer-songwriter stuff, bluesy, all that. I think that's one. It's easier to bring that stuff up to Pork Fest, which is already like kind of like a more laid back, campy atmosphere. People don't go there to like listen to punk rock and metal necessarily. Right. I brought the punk rock and metal to my tent, but like, that's not all of it. So, a lot of people come do their acoustic acts. We got karaoke, all kinds of stuff. You would be a hit at Pork Fest. I'm telling you right now. Have you since you started putting out this music, I know we're in a very niche crowd, we have like a very niche audience or whatever, but have you experienced any actual pushback against your music at all? Or has it been people like normies finding it and attacking you for any of the messages or anything like that?
Some, it's mainly been people in our movement that's found it. And, some of them don't like it, but more of a stylistic thing. But yeah, the normies have come across me a little bit, and that they'll good ideas, that song, and they'll be like, they get hung up on the line. It's good ideas, don't require force, no need for guns, no need for wars. Well, I'm not saying that we shouldn't have guns, but they get hung up, especially the right, they'll get hung up on that line. Yeah. I mean, I agree. We shouldn't be trying to, be mean to people and take their stuff, but I got to have my guns. And I'm like, I'm not saying don't have guns. I'm saying no need for guns for your good ideas. You don't need guns in war for good ideas.
Are you using your gun to get a point across? Or are you just no one's saying you can't have your guns. I can totally see. I've seen it even just this last week with all the stuff going on. I've seen so many right-wing libertarians and Republicans advocating for gun control this week after the shooting that happened out west there. Yeah. And I'm like, man, you either believe in gun rights, non-negotiable, Second Amendment, right to bear arms shall not be infringed, or you're a Democrat. I don't know.
Yeah.
But that's so ridiculous that anyone would take that out of that song. I thought that was a beautiful song.
I didn't get it from that. I didn't write that for that intention either, but
sure.
Yeah. But hey, it at least got some people that are more right wing to, hey, kind of, we shouldn't probably use force on peaceful people, yeah.
Do you, so I believe that music plays a big role in keeping like radical ideas alive. And I think that that's like what's important about your music is that you have like, I mean, they're not radical to us. They seem like common sense, but to normal people, these are radical ideas. Like, oh, like, yeah, like we shouldn't be taxed at all. Like, you know what I mean? Like all this stuff, you know, ending the Federal Reserve and switching over to cryptocurrency and all of this stuff, you know, ending the fiat, ending the Fed. These are very scary ideas to a lot of people. But music is a place where like scary ideas can survive. So how do you use your music to kind of like, I'm assuming that that's like, you know, like part of your thing is like, you're trying to like make these ideas more like approachable to people who, you know, you're not writing these songs necessarily for people who already believe this stuff. You know, you want to get a message across to normal people that just want to listen to music, and they stumble across your music and it's like, oh, you know what? This guy's got a point.
Yeah. And I think a good hook, a good melody, saying these lines that maybe sound a little fringe to the typical normie out there, can be a good hook. Like you're fishing, you know, and it's a good hook to bring people in. State of Affairs, the first song on the album that goes into the chorus, is the state's just a mafia. It's a cool little melody, and it kind of gets stuck in your head. And I've seen people comment on Facebook and different places like, I've been singing that song all day. Good. You know, and that's kind of the hope, that you kind of make some of these things that we say in the liberty community to kind of make them a little bit more mainstream, that people will get them stuck in their head. And it not sound so extreme. Yeah.
Yeah. You know, like when you were touring with Avery Road, did you at that point see music as a form of activism, or were you just kind of using it? It was obviously like Christian activism, is it, or, you know, apologetics, evangelism, however you want to call it. Evangelism is very similar to activism.
Very
did you see yourselves as, you know, evangelists, activists at that time, or were you kind of just wanting to do this to have fun?
No, I in the circles that we were playing, in the churches that we were playing, the small churches, not saying we didn't have fun, but fun wasn't high on the list. We were begging to get into places, you know, and most of people, when you're begging to come, you're not going to get a set amount of money, you know, so you're going to get that good old love offering. And sometimes it didn't have a lot of love in that offering. And so, we definitely didn't do it for fun or money. But we believed in the message.
Or for the girls. You know, definitely not there.
Not for the girls.
I know what you're talking about.
65-year-old women are our thing. But no. So both evangelical aspect, we wanted to spread the message of Christ, but also we had one song that was probably more activism. It was a pro-life song, but from a standpoint of the individual being pro-life to save her own baby. You know, it's a pretty cool song. I didn't write any of the songs of Avery Road, but I learned a lot. The writer was it was basically a duo. We had a drummer at one point, but it was basically a duo, and Jason was the other guy, and he wrote all the songs. He was the songwriter. But I learned a lot, and even got to do some things musically. He would have maybe lyrics, and I'd be like, "Hey, let's try this. Let's try and change the chord here." So that kind of got me into the whole songwriting aspect, and I got to watch him do it.
When you start doing it, like doing the thing like that, like playing music in that way is very different than playing in front of a church audience, for sure. Like, you know, like a lot of like church songs are 4 chords, you know, every song eventually is going to blend into each other or sound the same at some point. You know, it's gotten more unique recently, but like it hasn't always been that way.
Right.
But like when you're actually like touring and playing with, you know, other musicians in a creative way and not just playing like, you know, what someone else wrote
Right.
for music, it helps definitely expand, you know, your toolbox as an artist, if you will.
And yeah, but beforehand, I was more just Chris Tomlin, you know, the typical the worship stuff, and then going out on the road with him, seeing that process, getting to be a part of that process and create songs out of thin air, you know, that was definitely kind of lit that fire underneath me to want to do it myself. And I did it with the more anarchy message. But yeah, I do have one song on the album. It's the last song. I put it at the very end of the album strategically, did it on purpose. It's called No King But Christ. It's an anarchist perspective, but yet it's Christian as well. So, and I ended that with, we can, these are ideas, like good ideas don't require force. Taxation is theft. In the Fed, these are all great things that we can help humanity. But ultimately, I believe the answer for humanity is Christ. And so that's why I put it on the end of the album.
Yeah. Yeah. That's, I mean, the Romans 13 people always kind of drive me crazy. I've gotten into so many debates about, you know, how, you know, he said, render unto Caesar that which is Caesar's, you know, and like, you know, like there's, I've literally debated this till my like head almost popped off. But you know, like I always go back into, you know, Judges and you know, God's original intent for Israel was to not have a king. And you know, really like the fact that they got a king was God, you know, basically conceding to them. And then it turned out, you know, to be a terrible idea for them. Who knew?
He told them.
Who knew? He told them.
A king's going to tax you and he's going to send your kids to war. And hey, what did he do? Yeah.
I mean, that's like it's the tale as old as time, man. What do they do? They take your kids and send them off to war and they tax you to death for it.
Mm-hmm.
You know, and that's how empires fall. But you know, when if somebody came to your music with absolutely zero background on libertarianism or anarchy, what's something that you would hope that they took away?
Maybe hopefully they would come across a song like Good Ideas, or Black Markets, where the black markets grow, and be like, hey, this guy, he just wants to push, you know, voluntary exchange between neighbors. And he's just pushing peaceful living amongst other people. You know, I think if just the typical person would get that from my album, I hopefully I made it pretty evident that, hey, this idea of peace and voluntary exchange and just free trade, it really is what makes the world go round. It's not badges and guns and state authority. It's people trading freely in communities. And so, yeah, I would hope that message would ring true.
Yeah. Nice, man. So do you have like a plan to, you know, are you still writing? I know you just put out this album very recently. Wasn't it in like July?
Yeah. End of July. Yeah.
End of July.
Barely even a month. Yeah.
Yeah. Now, since you've written all those songs, obviously it takes a long time to get them from right to release, right? And now you're marketing them like crazy. But you know, have you written some new material even since then? And do you plan on, you know, putting out more music? I'm sure you're already like looking ahead. Like I said, you can never turn that creative part of your brain off. So
a little bit. I had some songs that just didn't make the cut. Because I wanted to sell vinyl. I didn't want to get in like too deep with vinyl where, you know, I had 100 of them sitting around because I knew I wasn't going to sell that many. But there was a company that I found it enables independent artists to do on-demand vinyl. So I was like, hey, I can do that.
Nice.
You don't really make anything off it, but it enables you to get your stuff on vinyl and people can buy it. And so I wanted the album to fit on vinyl. So that was one of the things, you know, I had to get it under a certain amount, usually around 40 minutes. If you know, start to get over 40 minutes, you lose a little bit of quality on the vinyl. And so some of the songs just I don't have a room. So I've got a few, and then I've got a lot. I'm starting to compile other, since I've been on some of these podcasts, I've had ideas just talking with people. I'm like, ooh, that'd make a good song, you know. So I'll write like maybe a title down, and it's in my phone. You know, we'll see where that goes. But it's hard to cut that off once you cut that part of your brain on and you start creating songs, because I haven't really done until the last 4 years or so, 4 or 5 years. And so
I'm really excited to hear the Ancap Tim version of Shut the Punk Up. So
pull that one off.
Yeah. Do you have any like dream artists that you've always wanted to like collaborate with? Or I know you like Billy Joel and stuff, you know, but the music industry is never ending. Like it's like constantly ever changing, you know, and these days, especially, it's very like DIY. I think some of the people I look up to the most are people nobody even knows who they are. They're just like absolute no name people that I've just come across over the years that I've been, you know, writing music and touring.
Right. Yeah. I'd like to do some collabs with some people in the Liberty community. I mean, that's something on my bucket list that would be fun. As far as I'm a big, I don't know if you heard of the band The Dolls.
I can't say that I'm familiar. No.
They're kind of like a classic rock, kind of folk, singer-songwriter kind of deal. But I don't know. I never really thought about a collab with anybody that was beyond my reach. you know what I mean?
That's cool. Man, I was trying to think of this name earlier when you were talking about it. Do you remember the old band? I think they were called Firehouse. No, they're like a Christian kind of like
name. When you said Christian, that I was thinking along those lines.
They were like popular back in the day. I remember I played a show with them, and I was like, they used to tour a lot in your area, so I wouldn't be surprised if you knew who they were. Yeah. They weren't as big out west, but we definitely got to get you up to Pork Fest next year. I think that you'd have a good time with that, you know, camping out, playing music, get you on the stage so you can share that music love with everybody. You know, like, I don't know, I've kind of like been on this thing for the last like 3 episodes now, 3 shows, where I'm kind of like, I talk about, you know, the crossover between Christianity and anarchism or libertarianism. Not necessarily, I think that they do morally align up, you know, for the most part, but libertarianism is like, you know, is not like a moral standard. It's just a philosophy, right? Christianity definitely is more painting like a moral picture of everything. But you know, I think that like churches and denominations, I think that like, you know, they'll start pointing fingers and separating each other out. Libertarians do that same exact thing where they'll like, you know, put each other into these different caucuses and say that the other people aren't real libertarians, right? I like that you've kind of like stepped away from the Libertarian Party stuff. I mean, like I said, like you're supportive, but you know, based on like what you've seen happen with churches and also just the liberty movement in general, like, do you have any? Would you offer any like advice to libertarians who just want to like make a positive difference in the world? Do you think that the Libertarian Party is the place to go, or do you think that there's a better way that they can serve the overall like liberty sphere?
Personally, for me, I've not really found that that's where I would fit. But I'm not one to say that it's not for you. Like, all right, you mentioned church denominations. I think Christianity is better when we focus on a simple doctrine. All right, that Christ is Lord, the death, the burial, and resurrection of Jesus Christ. That's the gospel. Okay, all this other stuff should be secondary and not so important. We're Christians because we believe the gospel that Jesus was the Christ. He died, he was buried, and he rose again. So why can't we do that in the liberty movement?
Why can't we just agree on these certain things and be like, hey, let's fight for this?
Mm-hmm.
I agree completely, man.
Can be a part of that. Agorists can be a part of that. Ancaps can be a part. Let's find what unites us and focus on that and stop worrying about all these other little things.
Yeah.
And that, the whole, I've got an idea for a song along the lines of, you're not as pure as me. That's the liberty movement in a nutshell. Everybody's got their
You'll never pass the purity test. I always tell people that.
Right. Yeah. Everybody's got their megaphone out saying, I'm better than you because I believe this and I believe that. I think we could.
I kind of lean into it these days, man. I think it's fun. Like, I know I'm not going to pass anyone's purity test. So like, hey, you know what? Maybe I'll trigger a couple of people just for fun, just for the heck of it. Cause like I know how they already feel about me, and some of it does come down to like tedious things like minarchy versus anarchy. And which is all funny because like, it's all like a pipe dream utopian idea anyway. Like we're never going to shrink the government to minarchy. And we're probably never going to have anarchy, not in my lifetime, not in your lifetime, so it's like, we can all hope for these things, but I think the real anarchy, like Michael Malice says, anarchy is a relationship. It's not a destination. You live anarchy. Music is a very anarchist industry because there's nobody in control of the entire thing. It changes as the culture shifts. It changes as the political spectrum shifts. And there's nobody no invisible hand pointing it a certain direction. It's an anarchist industry. That's what it is.
Right. Along those lines, I've got a song where the black market grows, and it focuses on black markets. And I don't mean just drug markets. And there's actually a bridge in there about, I'm not talking about real crime either, where there's a victim. Like I'm not talking about kidnapping kids and selling them on the black market. I'm talking about what most of us engage in every day when we buy things without paying tax, when we maybe have a local farmer that we get cuts of meat from without going through the FDA, those principles, I think, appeal to so many more other people. You got the left that are a little bit more, as far as let's have things that come straight from the earth. You know what I mean? Like natural. That's the word I'm looking for. And the right, they don't really want the government in their food either. So it's like the black market, as far as food and medicine and even marijuana, that unites so many people. And they might not all call themselves anarchists, but yet.
No, I think the agorism, nobody even knows what that is.
No,
but like, if you like, I think that like, that's a good place to point people to, because I think that like, you can look at things like homesteaders, which is actual anarchy in practice, right? You're living outside the government. You're providing for yourself. You're self-sufficient. I think that like,
but libertarians, nobody can be but so self-sufficient. So you need a community. You need to be able to trade. You need to be able to, because I have a mini homestead, and I raise sheep and sell the meat, and we pack our freezer and different things. But you can't be but so self-sufficient. I do think that is a lie.
That's why I love the Free State Project in New Hampshire. We've got like tons of people with the same mindset, the same philosophy, the same homesteader, self-sufficient attitude, but we are all a community. And if we needed something, I could just call somebody and be like, they're like, hey, like I'm taking them to slaughter next week. We'll get you some steaks. You know what I mean?
and I think that aspect can appeal to so many more people.
Definitely.
That's a message that I try to drive home with a song or two on the album. as well.
That's great. And then, the only other thing I always tell people is, find your strength and find something you're passionate about and stick to that, because that's actually going to be your best contribution to liberty. I don't think that wasting your time being on some kind of local county affiliate for your local libertarian party is really gonna, you're gonna be able to change some minds. Possibly you go to a couple county fairs, hand out some flyers, talk to some people. Sure. If that's what you're passionate about, you should do it. But that's not everyone's strength. That's not everyone's best way how they can contribute. Some people write, some people do podcasts, some people, are, more behind the scenes. They do tech stuff, or they're Bitcoin people, or whatever they are, just find that and get really good at it. Just keep being the best at that thing that you care about, and change the world with it.
Mm-hmm.
I think it literally comes down to that. You're doing it with music, and you're also homesteading and kind of being a living example of what you believe. And
homeschool. Yeah. Try to
homeschool.
We do homeschool.
That's awesome.
Mm-hmm.
But I think those are really good, important points to drive home. So Ancap Tim, where can people find your music? And I guess what can we expect from you, moving forward? Are you planning to do some performances, anything like that?
Yeah, I'd love to. You mentioned the one in New Hampshire. I'd love to. There's one in the Midwest Freedom Fest, or Midwest
Peace and Liberty Festival.
Yeah, that's it.
I was the speaker there this year. That was fun.
Oh, nice. Yeah, Nick. I've spoken to him.
He's a great guy.
He is. He's salt of the earth. So yeah, I would love to do that. I definitely looking into that. You can find my music at ancaptim.com. I'm on all the streaming services, Spotify, Apple Music, Amazon Music, all of them you can think of. If you want physical media, ancaptim.com, there's some links there for the vinyl on demand. You can buy it and they'll make it for you and ship it out. You do have to pay a little bit of shipping because it comes from the UK. A little bit of a bummer there. But I have CDs and vinyl on that site. So yeah, that's how you can get my music, either streaming or physical. And I'm on YouTube, on all the socials. If you're on Twitter, help me out on Twitter, because I just started a new account. And because I think I was shadow banned. I was banned so many times before during COVID, so I just deleted that account. But anyway, so if you're on Twitter, help me out. On TikTok, Facebook, Instagram, all that stuff. So yeah, I'll
follow you on Twitter. I'll find you after we're done here. I'll follow you.
Yeah, I appreciate that. I have 23 followers.
It's just at Ancap Tim. Is that what it is on Twitter?
Ancap Tim. Mm-hmm.
Okay, cool. And we did have someone in the comments here from Twitch saying, can he upload the lyrics to his album on Apple Music? It's nice to follow along with the lyrics while the music plays.
Yes.
So you got
I'm working on that. I've that's on my to-do list, and I've just been a slacker.
Awesome. Well, thank you very much for coming on. If you have any other music or anything that you're set to release, let me know. We can bring you back on, talk about it and everything. And I would love to showcase more of your music, get you looped in with the Punks for Liberty network, which isn't just about punk rock. We have just a network of musicians that try to, basically be cancel proof. If shit hit the fan, we have each other's backs type of thing. So I'll get you looped in with that. But it was great to hear from you. Great to have you on the show. Learn more about you. And I really appreciate your time.
Appreciate you having me on.
For sure. So I'll drop you backstage and then I'll finish up the show. We'll talk in a second. Okay. All right, guys. Well, thank you so much for watching tonight. I hope you guys found tonight's conversation as awesome as I did. It was definitely good. And Ancap Tim has really cool music. So check it out on YouTube, Spotify, all the places, and follow him on Twitter at Ancap Tim, because he needs some followers. I'm going to probably boost him here as soon as we're done with this. And if you can also, please like and subscribe, follow me on YouTube, on Twitter, on Twitch, wherever you're watching. And you will hear from me again soon next Saturday. I have my good friend Alex with his metal project. We're going to talk about that. So I hope you guys have a good night, and we will see you soon. Bye.
Coming for the